Welcome to the Craze in 10 or less. This is a show where I give it to you in 10 minutes or under, and if I don't, then it would not be 10 minutes. It'd be like 11 minutes. Anyway, we're going to stick to 10. So, are you a content creator? Are you a passive content creator? What kind of content creator are you? Let's talk crazy. Stop acting up.
Oh, you crazy.
Joe Rogan just signed a $100 million deal with Spotify. What does that mean for content creators? Right, earlier on we talked about Boom Studios and their Netflix deal. We all know about Jeff Smith's bone in Netflix, right? So it seems like all of the small things are being scooped up by the big boys, but the Joe Rogan, the podcast, $100 million deal with Spotify, that is crazy, right? So it's a multi-year deal, which is believed to be worth more than $100 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. Rogan's podcast is one of the most popular in the world, will arrive on streaming giant on the 1st of September. It will then be housed there exclusively by the end of the year and removed from all platforms. That means it's being removed from Apple, YouTube, Google. That's crazy. The Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, he has millions of followers. The guy is reportedly making $30 million a month from various investments. Signed over $100 million deal and has exclusive rights. They have no say in the topics, the content. He owns creative control. Total control. What does that mean for the future of content creators? What kind of opportunities does that create for the future? And what does that mean for you avid, passive content creators? Will you start taking it seriously? You know, there's tons and tons of podcasters out there. And there's a lot of guys and girls out there that want to be overnight successes. Joe Rogan is an example of someone who has invested in his brand, which is him. He is his brand. He's a comedian. He's a commentator. He is a credible speaker. You know, when you watch UFC, I remember, you know, Joe Rogan, early days of UFC before the big UFC. He's been with the organization. He's passionate about it. He's a student of the game. He is versed in so many different subject matters, which is why he has such a dynamic, diverse group of guests on his show. So he has put in the time. That wasn't an overnight success. You know, we've seen him on Fear Factor. We see him on comedy show, live appearances at doing stand-up. So here's somebody who's taken his life into his own hands and built an empire on his own merit, right? Was consistent year after year after year after year, and just putting out content because that's what he likes. The subjects, those are the things that he was interested in, right? The guests, those are the people that he found interesting. And the audience just gravitated to. And now here comes Spotify saying, look, we're not a video content producer, we're an audio content producer. But there's rumors that they may be putting together a video platform for the Joe Rogan experience. That opens up a lot of doors. And what does that mean for YouTube? You know, because YouTube has, you know, a monopoly basically on the game and has a lot of rules and controls the direction it goes. But then when you have other platforms, other organizations coming forward and saying, hey, you know, we want to play in this sandbox too. They're taking a piece of the pie. And they went after the big fish, probably the biggest name in podcasting. They went after the big dog. and they got him. They scooped it up. How they let that go, I don't know. But it's pretty fascinating. Now let's talk about comic books, right? So what does that mean for comic book creators? I mean, you got to think about the comic book men, right? And that show, and it was always on after The Walking Dead. There's so many opportunities to do things in a big way, in a big scale way. You have to start asking yourself, for all of you guys that just got into podcasting, how committed are you to this? Is this just a hobby for you? Or do you really want to, have your own income and be your own breadwinner and make this a financial stable foundation for you and your family, and this is a career for you? If that's the case, what do you need to do to get noticed? What do you need to do to gain credibility? What do you need to do to attract a wider guest list? If you're interviewing guests, if you're a comic book podcaster specifically on comic book reviews, what are the avenues? What are the opportunities for you? What have you identified as your road towards achieving the success that you want? This is pretty fascinating. I tell you, between, when you look at what excites me the most is when you think about the Disney Marvel acquisition, right? The Disney Star Wars acquisition. They have an enormous treasure trove of brands and properties and characters and stories and plots, right? And Warner Brothers with DC. But what I've learned throughout this entire time is that there's still room for the little guy.
Yay!
There's still room for the little guy, because while the big boys are just scooping all these things up, there's still companies that are coming out of left field, like Netflix, like Spotify, that decide, hey, all right, we're not going to play that game. You might own Captain America and Spider-Man, but you don't own Bone, or you don't own Boom. So let's talk to these cats and let's see what we can do. And that's pretty fascinating. So I think my takeaway from this is, if I wasn't inspired a year ago when I first came out and I talked to Mark Torres on It Came From the Radio show for the first time in 10 years, that guy last April was fearful, hesitant, nervous, apprehensive, anxiety-ridden, because I left the game for 10 years and I decided to get back in, and I was selling it big. And now that we've been consistent week after week, and now that we have, I think we have shows already built in to the database already to just self-publish through YouTube and Podbean through July. Looking at this, I'm even more determined. To go out there and kick some petunia. So, look out, world. This is the time to shine. I know I'm getting into the arena. Who's with me? What do you got going? Congratulations, Joe Rogan. I'm a big fan. I subscribe to your show. And catch the Craze. This is the Craze in 10 or less. I guaranteed it to you. It's 9 minutes and 38 seconds. Peace. Let's talk about it again sometime. I'm out.